Okay, so just to continue, as a little recap, so there I've emailed the Chief Executive Officer, which is Delith Curtis, the Director of Children's, which is Amanda, new in post, Governance Lead Vanessa, and Democratic Services Penny. And what I'm trying to do there is uncover, well, first of all, make sure that they've all had sight of the latest scandal that's taken place at Chester Pride in terms of child safeguarding, so that no one can say they weren't aware. And then next, to try and find out more information about this Events Safety and Safeguarding Oversight Group, which the council is supposed to be in charge of, which doesn't seem to be picking up and dealing with these issues and making sure that there's proper planning in place to make sure that they don't happen again. So that's the emails that have been sent. And it's important to say that although there will be people who have, high profile accounts and so on, who are doing amazing things to raise awareness and help peak the nation or other nations about what's actually happening in terms of women's rights, child safeguarding, freedom of speech, LGBT rights, through this kind of invasion of LGBT by the TQ plus and that whole culture around that's captured policy making within public sector organisations as well as within the private sector. It's important, I think, to say that from my perspective, even though it's quieter and it might be more boring work or more laborious work, it's really important that people know that these kinds of things, like putting in freedom of information requests, asking awkward questions as a councillor, but freedom of information requests and awkward questions of councils, of the police, of the NHS, whoever it is, as a member of the public, is all really worthwhile stuff. Writing to your MP just to register that you're not happy about things, it's worthwhile. It's not nothing. It's something that's really worth doing. Street turfing, that's stuff that we do and that other women do in local groups. It's effective. Those one-to-one conversations and a visible presence on the high street, and through emails and through letters and through freedom of information requests and all of this stuff, it's all really important from my point of view. And it's really not about who did it first or who had the idea first, because all of us have become aware of this at different stages, and some of us have access to finance and platforms and things that other people don't have. And what this has to be is it has to be an ongoing, laborious, tedious, persistent collective fight. So well done to anyone who is doing any of these things. And we have to help each other. We have to help each other, because I'm sure, like everybody else, I don't have freedom of information request expertise. And all of us fighting on this front are having to fight on this front and learn as we go. So if this is helpful to anyone, then great. And if you have advice or ideas for me, please let me know as well. So here's the freedom of information request that went to Cheshire West and Chester Council in relation to their involvement with the organisation. I'm asking them about their involvement with the organisation Chrysalis, because on that video clip that I put out the other day of my conversation with Steph Holmes, who's the CEO of Chrysalis, Steph definitely said that guidance and support and training and all of this kind of thing is offered to families including families with very young children, and that comes through local authority referrals in a number of different local authority areas, and quite frequently children's services, and seemed to be quite strongly intimating that included Cheshire West and Chester Council. So I obviously, as a councillor, given some of the things that were said, have a keen interest in finding out, well, how many of our kids, any of our kids, and if so, how many. So let's see. So this was in Freedom of Information request dated 4th of March 2025. I think I sent this after I sent those emails, but they kind of support each other and back each other up in terms of the concerns I've got. And this was called Cheshire West and Chester Council's involvement with transsexual organisation Chrysalis, because that's how Chrysalis describe themselves as a transsexual organisation. So, please, I said, Please provide an outline of the council's involvement with the organisation called Chrysalis, who were present as stallholders at the Chester Pride event in 2024. This organisation provides support and information to adults and children across the UK. It does not appear to be registered as a business, a social enterprise, or as a charity. Please specify in your answer the following. So one was whether the council's Children's Services Department or any other department has referred children or parents to this service within the last 3 years, and if so, how many children per year, what ages the children were, and what the nature of the support and information was that was requested or provided. So the initial fudged response to that question was Cheshire West and Chester Council does not record information as the above. There is no statutory requirement to do so, therefore we are unable to report on this. So that is a fudge, because it's not saying necessarily that they don't have any information or that they haven't made referrals. It's just saying there's no statutory requirement for them to keep those records formally. So it's a non-answer. So obviously I've come back on that, where I've requested an internal review. So question 2, whether any funding has been provided to Chrysalis by the council. If so, the amount of funding provided and the period of time and nature of provision for each payment covered. My understanding of freedom of information request and subject access request is that they are you're more likely to get what you need if you specify a from and to specific date. They have an easy out if you don't do that, so that's quite an important thing to do. And they also they have to be in relation to what recorded information that they have, if at all possible. Right, so the response to that about funding was Cheshire West and Chester Council holds no records in this respect. Doesn't mean they haven't, just that's what they're saying. 3, whether any training has been provided to Cheshire West and Chester staff or services provided through the council by Chrysalis, and if so, what the nature of that training was and any costs involved. And their response was Cheshire West and Chester Council holds no records in this respect. Number 4, whether the council has received any policy or guidance, e.g. inclusion guidance, trans-inclusion guidance to schools, consultation support from Chrysalis, whether formally or informally in relation to any area of the council's remit, and if so, which policy areas are they supported, when this support took place, and any costs involved. And the council's response there was Cheshire West and Chester Council have not received any policy or guidance consultation support from Chrysalis. Well, that's good, at least that's a clear answer. So when you're first going in with your initial set of questions, obviously you have to cast the net wide and kind of try and think about a succinct way, which I'm not very good at, of asking all the really important things that you want to know. Because at that point you don't know what you can discount. But if they come back with a fudge, then you can narrow it down and say, well, okay, that sounds pretty conclusive. I don't need to bother about that one. I can let that one go. Let's focus on these other ones where they're clearly fudging or where it's unclear. So the next step after this initial one is a honed set of questions. Number 5, please provide copies of relevant due diligence carried out in engaging this organisation, assuming they have been engaged by the council, including any equality impact assessments and child safeguarding policy checks in relation to any of the stalls or organisations represented at Chester Pride. Their response is, this event is the responsibility of Chester Pride. This is not a council event, therefore we do not hold any information in this respect. Well, so I've asked them about equality impact assessments, and it sounds like one hasn't been carried out. Whether legally one should have been carried out, given the fact that they've licensed the event, it's on their premises, and I'm pretty sure they've funded it, including that tent. Yeah, possibly they should have done. But certainly some relevant due diligence of some kind should definitely legally have been carried out by the council, and from their answer it looks as if they haven't done, and they're trying to avoid having to say that they haven't done. Number 6, please provide confirmation that all stall holders at Chester Pride, including the 2 members that ran the Chrysalis stall, provided proof of DBS clearance prior to being allocated a stall. Our response is as per question 5. So they're saying, well, that's on Chester Pride. So they're trying to really make sure that they push all of the responsibility and any legal liability onto the registered charity Chester Pride, like it's their fault, it's not us. which is understandable because from my perspective, it was a pretty big failing, and I wouldn't want to be associating myself with that if I were them. Let's see. Please confirm, number 7, please confirm whether the council have used the Chrysalis third-party reporting system for reporting hate crimes, or undertaken any promotion or referral of staff or residents, adults or children to this service. If so, please state which teams have used it and referred onto it, and whether any charge was made for the use of this service. Our response: Cheshire West and Chester Council has not used this system, promoted it or referred people to it. Great, that's nice and clear, can tick that one off, don't have to worry about that. Number 8, please provide details of any other LGBTQI+ or LGBT organisations that QAC currently refers children to or has referred children to for support with gender confusion, distress or dysphoria over the past 3 years, detailing ages of children, when these referrals were made, by which team, associated cost and the type of support offered and accessed. Our response: Cheshire West and Chester Council does not record information as the above. There is no statutory requirement to do so, so therefore we are unable to report on this. Now again, that's another fudge. Just because they're not statutorily required to record that information doesn't mean they're not going to have any records of who else they refer to. Yeah, or the associated costs. They just don't want to share them by the look of it. And also, when I'm using terms like gender confusion, distress or dysphoria, it's like I have to use some words. It doesn't mean that I'm legitimising that there is such a thing as innate gender dysphoria or gender confusion or whatever. It's not that I'm legitimising that. It's just that I have to have, as a council, some words to use that are going to be recognised within the policies that the councils are actually currently using. So I'm not colluding with that there. I'm just trying to make sure that I get an answer to the question that I'm asking. So what I will do next in the next little video is I will go through the more focused questions that I put together when I was requesting an internal review. And just to say as well, the email that I sent to Amanda Periton, who is the Children's Services Executive Director, the holding email I got back from her says that she has viewed the video, so that's good. She's seen it. We know that. We've got that on record, so that's good. That's a little bit of progress forward in terms of gathering our evidence and making sure that we hold the council to account. And she also said that she is aware that other members of the council have been contacted about this same issue by myself. She's liaising with them, and one of them will get back in touch with me. What I really need and what I will push for is a response from Amanda herself. Because this really primarily is her responsibility to get right and make sure that the council doesn't mess up on again. And then in terms of these fudged initial responses, I requested an internal review, and that request has been accepted, and they've said that they will get back to me with their answers in 40-day period, within the next 40 days. So that's great, and I will talk more about that internal review in the next video. And then I'm going to talk in a separate video about the FOI that I have submitted to Cheshire Constabulary on similar issues.